Now we've had all this time to talk about semantic elements. Let's create some. So we've got our first website layout code pen from the first video. If you didn't make this, you need to go make it. Just make a new pen and label it first website layout last name. And we're going to keep the div here because I want you to see what a div looks like. But for now, I'm going to go to the beginning of the div and I'm going to hit enter a couple times, just popping it down to line 3 and making it so I can put some stuff up on line 1 of my code in my HTML. So we talked about how there's about 6 semantic elements that we're going to start using. There's actually a 7th one that we'll introduce in a little bit. And then later on in the courses, we introduce more. But the basic ones include header, footer, and main, as well as nav. So when we talk about it, we had that header, we had the navigation or the nav, the main section of the page, main content, and then the footer at the bottom. And we're just going to create that together. So just like we did with the div, it's just a box, right? And it's a container tag because it's going to contain things. So it's going to open the header and close the header, and then it's going to have stuff in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and open our header here, and you're going to use a header tag. And then I suggest as you code that you automatically close a container tag after you open it. So I know we haven't been doing that much so far as we've been introduced, but it's time to start doing that. So that way, as we begin to put content inside of it, we don't forget that closing tag. You've done some fix this code and you notice that a closing tag is really easy to forget once you start going and you got lots of stuff. So it's better just to do it right off the bat and close that header up. So that way you have it. Now, nothing appears on your page because there's nothing inside of it. There's no definition of how big it should be, what color it should be, nothing like that. So it's important to remember that all boxes and all semantic elements and all divisions or sections are invisible at start. So we're going to put something in it. We're going to go ahead and put a header in it. And we're going to put like the name of the web page here. So my first layout. And when you put that in there, you'll see that it'll pop up right above this is a box with the div tag. And we won't see anything else because we haven't defined any like sizing for it or colors or anything like that. And what's important to know is that when we make this header, we can apply stuff inside of it. So like, let's say I want the words my first layout to be a heading. And it's important to note that there are 3 tags that get very mixed up. So take note of it now. The 3 tags that get very mixed up are header, headings, and a head. So we are going to be introduced to headers, which we're introduced to right now. A header is a box or a semantic element. Headings, which are your H1 through H6 tags. And then later on, we're going to be introduced to a tag called a head tag. I know they're all named head something, but they are different things. So if I want to make this a heading, like an H1, I would want the text to be the H1, meaning I want to open it and close it afterwards. And what we're essentially going to do is nest tags. So I want you to think about those Russian nesting dolls. So I'll look up what a Russian nesting doll is real quick because most people don't know what I'm talking about when I say it. But a Russian nesting doll is where you have like a little tiny doll inside of a bigger one that opens up and closes over the smaller one, and then inside another one, inside another one, inside another one. And it's important to note that the smallest one is completely contained inside the next size up. And the next size up has 2 pieces to it, right? It breaks in half and it has 2 pieces. Like you can see over here, they're breaking in half and they have that smaller one nested inside. So when you think about when you have multiple tags, if you're going to create a heading inside of the header, the opening and closing need to stay inside of the header so that they can be closed inside of it and be contained, just like the smallest Russian nesting doll is inside the next size up. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my H1 before the words my first layout. And then at the end of it, don't forget to go close the H1. But notice I'm creating that header. And then it's nested inside of, I'm creating that heading. See, I even did it myself with the words. Creating that heading, that H1, inside of the header. So the header contains the H1 inside of it, and they're nested, and they're also listed in the same order in which they would be nested in. Okay, and that'll create that. And just like with our div, we can make it show up, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm actually going to go after the div here and hit enter in my CSS. The beauty about CSS is most of the time the order that you list things in is not important. It's going to grab it and apply it no matter what. So if I want to make the header have a style, a height, a width, a background color, how do I call upon the header tag? By name, right? So I'm just going to type header, and then I'm going to open up my curly brackets. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a height of, let's say, like 150 pixels. The second I do that, you'll see that the div automatically pops down because now it's got this height. And we talked about this because all the boxes that we've seen, a lot of the boxes that we've seen are invisible. We can't see them. They don't have a background color. So I'm showing you that when I make a height, it has this ability to push things away from it. And I can put more stuff in there and it will still exist inside of it. It'll be consistent to being 150 pixels high. The other thing I want to show you is like a width. So if I make the width, like let's say really small, like 25 pixels, you'll see that it'll automatically shrink all that text over and push it and wrap it to the multiple lines because it only has so far to go over, okay? And actually it's probably going outside of the box. This information is sitting outside of the box because the heading 1 style is too big for the header. So for instance, if I now give this a background color of, let's say, green, you'll see that that text is actually pushing outside of the box because the heading 1 style is too big for the box. But what's important to note is that that box exists even without this background color, and it's still there. So let's say I make the width instead of 25, maybe I make it 800 and make it span far across the page. And as you're looking at it and creating that semantic element, remember that if I expand this, it's going to stop at 800. But if it didn't have a width, if there was no width defined, what is the box's width, or what is the semantic element's width? As wide as the page. If I delete that width, it's going to go all the way over the page no matter what, because it's a block element. It's a semantic block element that blocks out the width of the page. Okay. But I'm going to keep my width there. So my coding is going to show that I have a height of 150, width of 800, background color of green, and I've created that header tag with a heading inside of it. Go ahead and save that, and we'll continue forward making more semantic elements.